Hi, and welcome to another video log for Aperture Speaks. It's been quite a while since I did my last video log, I think about actually 6 weeks. So it's been quite a long time, and this really is because I've been super busy. I had the end of school term, and then I had a lot of the things I wanted to do, at the beginning of the summer, and now really I'm sort of getting into the flow of things, so I'm back on my sort of video schedule. So today's vlog is about making a retro image. Now, I've done retro images before, using mainly the curves adjustments and different things you can actually do in Camera Raw to create them, but I've never actually showed you one this way before. This is going to be using a gradient map. Something a little bit different, and it should look quite nice. And it doesn't actually take that long. It's actually quite a quick little few adjustments that you make. So the first thing I'm going to do is to take my image here. This is like a throwaway image that I have. I don't know. This building actually is very, very big, and I wanted to get a picture of it. But the problem is that you really need to have a super wide-angle lens, because there's no room in the street to actually capture it. You're possibly even looking at fisheye. The only way you could do it is make a sort of panorama of the building, which I have tried to do before. But I just took this one looking up a slight angle. And so hopefully with the Lomo effect, it will sort of give it something which it doesn't have already. So let's just take that in. So just open it. I always open it as an object. That's because I like to have non-destructive editing, and opening as an object, I sort of try to keep that. Okay. So here is a picture. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is go down to the adjustments, and here there is gradient map. Okay, gradient map just looks like a gradient like this, and so what it's done is actually just turned the image into a black and white image. What we want to do is actually affect the color. So we double click into here, and here we can actually make changes to the gradient. So we can actually just import a gradient if we wanted to. So lots of different choices. So in this one, actually, I need 3 bits. So no, 50%. And the way you sort of duplicate these color stops is just by using Alt and click, and it duplicates them. If you don't want it, you want to delete it, you just move it off, and it deletes it like that. To change it, you double click in now, and you select your color, and then you can see the change which happens straight away. So this bit here, dark to light. Okay, dark to light. So here, I'm going to try and choose like a bluey color. I actually have one in mind, so I'll just type it in. Okay, this is a very, very dark blue you can see here. Okay, the reason for this is because it usually with some sort of retro images, they sort of usually shift from blues to greens and yellows to reds, and yellow to sort of rusted orange sort of thing. And these colors are sort of typical for the sort of retro cameras. This is sort of Lomo type image in inverted bunny rabbit ears. So what I'm just going to do here is just put in a few colors just to make my gradient. And as you can see, this bit here, this color here, is affecting the shadow area of the image. Basically, this is going to be the midtones, and this bit is going to be more for the lighter areas of the image. Okay, and then you click done, and then you drop it in as an overlay. Soft light will give it a bit of a softer effect, and as you can see here, it's really just brought those colors in and made a color shift of the image. So whereas before this is all sort of like a yellowish color, this is blue. Before, you can see here that this has gone to this more sort of paler cyan type color, and this has gone to this sort of more darkish blues which are here. So it really just takes the tones of the image and it fills the color in to where it needs to be. So I've now done this. So that now looks quite nice. Now really just sort of make the retro effect a little bit more. I'm gonna start with my selection tool. So I'm going to use the elliptical selection tool here. I'm going to add a vignette. I have two ways of adding a vignette, and this is one of them, which I'll quickly show you, and I'll show you another one. So I want to put a feather. I actually used, we'll choose 100 pixels this time. Okay. And I just draw that across. Okay. And then you Shift Control I to invert the selection. And then use the paint bucket to fill it in. Now what then you can do is you can set this to multiply or overlay, and then reduce the opacity a little bit just to create the vignetting effect, like that. That's one way of doing it. I have a slightly different way, which I really prefer sometimes, which I'm just going to show you now. And actually just go Control All, the new layer for this. And then what I do is I go Select, Modify, and Border. And I usually affect the border by 200. And I go Select, Modify, Feather, and by 200. And you get a slightly more rounded effect there. So that's another way of doing it. I'm going to go back to this one because this one looks quite neat. For this particular image. Oh, and the third way. I'll show you the third way. The third way is a little bit different. The third way, I will actually fill this layer black to begin with. There we go. Set it to overlay. Or soft light overlay. I quite like that. Okay. And then what I do is I take my brush, low opacity, make it quite big about the area the image was in. Just gonna go back in here, dark gray so you can see the background. Okay. Now I do is I think, well, where is the bit I want? Where do I want this to be? And this basically is a vignette you can sort of modify each time. So just a few clicks. This is the sort of area I'm wanting. And what you get then is you get the vignette in the place and in the way that you want it. And you can actually create some quite funky sort of vignettes this way, just by adjusting like the brush size. And it means it's not sort of even as well. And you can just sort of mess around with that. I normally do my vignette in 2 layers. The first one is set at overlay. And then what I do is I duplicate this, and I set the second one at multiply. Now, why do I use 2? Well, one is actually to darken. So the multiply one actually just darkens the area, and the overlay one gives this sort of, it darkens the area as well, but it gives a sort of contrast to it. And it's just a little bit of a tweak that's really there. Okay. What I'll also do now is I'll add in a contrast adjustment. So I'll go to my curves, levels, I don't know why that is, different space. Yep. And this time I just sort of increase the contrast. So it's a lot more contrasted now. And then you get this sort of very sort of peculiar green going on the background on the sides there, and you got this in the center. It's really, really quite nice. I mean, in a nice bright bunk. Okay. The other thing I do is quickly duplicate this. I'll have to rasterize it. 1 second. Thank you. is I add a slight blur on to where the vignette roughly is. The blur in the vignette, I don't always have the exact same place, but I use a similar method. So this time I go filter, blur, Gaussian blur. 25 is a little bit strong, maybe 5. We don't want it too much after all. Add this in. I once again just do a similar thing of what part of the area I want to sort of more in focus, so I can just say, well, maybe like this, have it a little bit of here. And I'm going to create it the same way as I created the last one. Now, I know it's not as quick and it's not as uneven, but it does give us slightly more, I don't want to say realistic, but it gives us slightly more individual. That's probably a better word. Individual look. Okay. And as you can see, I'm just sort of, this edges are really sort of blur here, but in the center, I've got it back in. I've got it really quite nice in the center here. There we go. We can look at it there. And that's about it. So what I'd probably just do is sharpen this bit, because I want this bit quite nice. Just divide and shut mask. So you can just see there the areas which are completely sharp, and you've got this sort of blurring now going out the outside, and it has this sort of retro feel to it. Now obviously what you can do is, if you're not too happy with that gradient mask, you can obviously change it a little bit if you wanted to. So you could go for a slightly more this bit. I'll probably give it there. So you get added on, maybe sort of more goldenish tone. I don't think that gold tone does actually. It does look quite nice. It does work its way through quite well. I quite like that golden bit more than the bluish tone. If you put the blue and the gold together, that's quite strong by itself. Maybe have the two tones working with each other, and you can just sort of mix around to really sort of play and see what is working, what is not working. You could take the two tones and maybe add a, up this a little bit maybe, and go, okay, I always want this bit here to be one tone. You have the other one like different. You can just play around. That's all I would say. So what should we keep? Should we keep it the delete that bit? No, actually, I'm gonna keep it the blue. It looks quite cold, and I quite like that. So I'll just delete that copy there. Okay. So there you are. That's just creating a sort of more a retro style image, a cool tone retro style image, in Photoshop, using a gradient map. And there it is on full screen. There you go. So hopefully I'll be back making these videos every week. A little bit of tutorializing, a little bit of just conversation, and I will try and post these videos on Tuesdays. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section. You can follow me on my blog, which is at aperture64.wordpress.com, or www.aperture64.wordpress.com. You can go on my Twitter, which is at Aperture64, or on my Facebook, which is facebook.com/Aperture64, this time actually spelling out Aperture64. Okay, so until next week, guys, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.